Fantastic. Thank you again. Thanks everybody for being here. I also want to introduce my co-presenters here. We have Dr. Andrew Israelsen. I think I just saw you a minute ago. Hi, Andrew.
Hi.
Thanks for being here. Steve Wyre also. Steve,
I am here.
Welcome. Thank you so much. So the three of us did our research, and this is just the title of the study, so I'm just going to read it for you. It's the influence of instructor-generated video content on the quality of assignments completed in asynchronous online philosophy classes. And basically what that means is we did a project using instructor videos. And Andrew and Steve here did most of the work on all of that video, but go ahead and click ahead, Kelsey. I'm just going to talk a little bit about the background and then ask my colleagues to chime in on the video part. So about this study, go ahead and click to the next one. And this is just my thoughts about this. You might have wondered this. So I wondered this. What would happen if you were able to answer all your online students' questions in the moment they actually need the answer? And we try, right? We try to be online all the time, and it isn't something we can effectively do. We can't be in there 24/7. So sometimes people create lecture style videos. Sometimes we create videos for announcements, a lot of things. This study is about answering this question in one way. So we're focusing on what can we do to meet their needs the moment they have them in this one area that we focused on. Go ahead to the next slide. So we have a little bit of research that's out there. I think you have to click again to get the text to come up on that. Yeah, right there. Mainly, there are two things. So there's this idea that if you use a constructivist approach to learning, the teacher's role is transmitting knowledge, or like the sage on the stage idea. And we all know here at APUS that in online learning, we have a little bit more of the guide on the side approach, where we want to have a lot more collaboration and discussion and engagement with our students. So we had this study by Draus, Karan, and Trempus in 2014, which was all about using instructor videos everywhere. So in that study, they put their videos into the assignments, into the discussion questions, into the weekly lectures, into the announcement areas, pretty much anywhere they thought students would engage with the videos. And their feedback that they shared with the research was that they had increases in the student perception that they understood the material better because of the videos. They also felt that the videos contributed to their satisfaction in the course. They understood their instructor better through all those videos, and they wanted more of them, even though there were quite a few videos in all those courses. The overall takeaways were that there was a 3.2% increase in the mean student grades and a 5.8% increase in the rating on the end of course survey. Instructor was an effective teacher. Now, remember, in this study, they put videos literally everywhere, and they had these two great outcomes. So we're going to zero in on just one of those things. Go ahead and click through to the next slide, and that one right there. Did we need all those videos in all of those locations? This is just a little bit more research, a few other people who studied the same thing. Click through that one. These are the places that Draus, Karan, and Trempus had put their videos. We chose one place. So we chose the fourth item on this list, and that is the assignment instructions. Go ahead and click ahead. And I just want to give you a little explanation of what an explainer video is, because that's pretty much the approach we're using with that video. Click to the next slide. And this is what it means for us. So an explainer video is a short, concise way of describing something, telling what it is, what it isn't, and how to do it or why it's important. And these are just some key points about general explainer videos. Like they can be all kinds of different platforms. You can use TechSmith, Snagit, you can use Camtasia, Canva. All you need is a basic video camera. You can animate it or not. You'll see a little bit of the examples here in just a minute. Click to the next one. And we're going to talk about the study next. And I'm going to bring my colleagues along to share out a little bit more about this study. So Andrew, can you join us on the mic for a minute? Talk a little bit about the video. Click to the next slide. Yeah, I can hear you just fine. Thanks for being here, Andrew.
Yeah. So yeah, we created the videos were between 90 seconds and 2 minutes. We wanted to keep them maybe 2.5 minutes. We wanted to keep them under 3 minutes so they'd be concise. And we tried to use some keywords, kind of get them to think about the assignment in a sort of metacognitive way. So we included some metacognitive kind of ways for them to reflect on what we were looking for, what they should be attempting to achieve in the assignment so that they had more clarity on what our expectations were and what they should be attempting to achieve and learn in the experience. So yeah, they were quick, to the point, and we tried to stick to the basics. So
awesome. Thank you, Andrew. Steve, anything you want to add about our process on the videos?
No, the metacognitive components seem to be pretty important. I just don't know that the research itself, the statistics, proved that good, although we had a small sample size, relatively speaking. Do you want me to do that now or wait a minute?
We'll get to it in just a minute. A little example of those videos so they kind of see what we're using. But definitely we'll circle back to that in just a sec. So what Steve's referring to is this third point on this slide, the exploring the data part. So we'll circle back to that. Kelsey, if you could click to the next slide, we have a video clip. I don't know if you're sharing. Thank you.
Moreover, how do you think you should approach such situations? Are your answers to those two questions the same? This assignment represents an opportunity to reflect on your current relationship to morality in both theory and practice. The assignment is divided into 3 sections. In the first, you're being asked to identify and carefully define the moral theories that make up or play a role in your moral compass.
Yeah, that's it for that clip. And then if you click to the next slide, we have one more short clip just to show you both instructors who have their videos. Yeah, thank you.
Ask yourself how well you understand that theory. Have you conducted any additional research on each theory? Have you pondered if any of the theories are contradictory? While many of these theories have elements and aims in common, some are incompatible with others. Rand's rational egoism, for example, is incompatible with most other ethical theories. Can one be an egoist and a utilitarian? Or could one be both a utilitarian and a deontologist? These are questions to consider. Furthermore, consider whether one can adhere to one moral theory in one aspect of life and a competing theory in a different aspect of life, or if adherence to one theory precludes commitment to other theories. Make the creation of a logically consistent and applicable moral compass your goal. In the second section of your paper, you will analyze how you will utilize the moral theory or theories you defined in section 1. A moral theory is only as good as the actions it produces. Ethics is not an abstract science, but a pattern of behavior. How do your chosen theories manifest in your life and choices? If you choose virtue theory, for instance, how do you become virtuous, and how would you apply virtue theory on the job or at home? If deontology is one of your chosen theories, what sorts of duties define your conduct?
Kelsey, would you mind going ahead and
pause
at the top that they chose to add to highlight some of the key concepts, really to draw up that metacognitive piece and be aware of the big ideas. So on the next slide, and I'm going to lean on Steve a little bit more here for the data analysis. We looked at end of course.
In the sense that both, and this is not tooting our horns, but Andrew and I normally do quite well in these areas. So there would only have been a little bit of room for improvement when we're looking at just the impact on the scores and drop rates and whatnot. But when we were in the numbers, just did a simple students t-test, and there was no statistically significant difference between the students who went through without the videos and the students who went through with them. If we were going to advise for future research, it would be good to have a wider range of faculty involved, just to see if it makes a big difference. But like I said, we realized that we didn't have much room to improve. I don't want to make it sound bad.
Oh, you're doing great. Go ahead and click to the next slide, and we'll actually bring a little bit of that on the screen to kind of support what you're saying.
Yeah, but there was just no significant difference between before and after.
Right, and this is an illustration of what you're saying. This is the average grades for all the sections of Philosophy 200 over time for a few years. And if you could click to the next slide, this will show the sections that we studied for those who are interested. So this image that that we're just looking at is all the green is the pass rate for the different sections that ran of Philosophy 200. And then on the right-hand side, the top is the average course grades for any sections that we were studying. So we have control groups that are not highlighted. And then the ones that had the intervention are in yellow. And you could probably say that actually the average course grades went down a little bit during the study, but we don't necessarily attribute it to the study. There's a lot of factors that play into that, and we're really not sure that the study itself caused lower grades. We just know that it didn't lead to anything higher. So yeah, anything more either of you want to share about the analysis or the data that any impressions you had about quality?
Well, there was a question in the chat here from Kristen Miller about whether the data, so Kristen asked, I'm just curious if the data was able to identify whether the increases in grades were due to having supplementary context information or due to having an audio component. I'm not, do we have any specific stat information like that, Steve? Or probably not. I didn't think so. Okay.
Might be good to look at for next time.
Yeah, it's a good question, because I think that just the audio component is probably a big part of the putative success of this type of exercise. But anyway, sorry, that was all Bethany.
And to answer the question by Cynthia, since it's out there, it's a particularly challenged class. There's just the one assignment in particular, the last one, students had a hard time grasping it. So as far as our position, looking at all of the faculty who teach the course, it's a problemed course. But looking at us doing it, that doesn't translate to us necessarily. So we were trying to find a way, specifically when we started this, to help other faculty do better. And if we had had more time, or taken a slightly different approach, we would have taken the videos and put those in other courses with other instructors. But part of the goal was to see if having the course's actual instructor do the video made a difference.
Yeah, great point there, Steve. And I know we didn't get too much into the protocol for the video, but Kelsey, would you mind clicking to the next slide? I did want to just say that the script was prepared by these two professors, and it was used the same for both. So they both said the same thing in the video. They both had the same headline fly in. They wanted to make their videos the same to make sure that that wasn't a factor in any results that we had or did not have, I guess, as the case may be here, and sometimes that happens where you think something's going to have a big impact and it just doesn't. So in this case, it didn't. And that's not a bad thing. There could be a lot of things we could explore further, as you just said, Steve, or it could be that maybe some of the results the other researchers had to do with the fact that there were videos everywhere in that course, and they were getting a lot of social presence as well as cognitive and teaching presence. And what we were focused on was one thing in one spot, kind of a fun way to isolate it and see, like, would that make a big difference or not?
Right. Stacy's asking a really good question. because in some of the literature that we looked at, it was courses like statistics that are, philosophy. There's no set answers. I mean, there's factual stuff that you need to know. There's a right way and a wrong way to define, being a utilitarian, but it's not like statistics where it's more mathematical and you've got a right answer. It seemed in the literature that doing these kinds of videos for something like that was more beneficial.
Yeah, and just to answer Renee's question, we don't have the number of students who viewed the videos, we have the number of clicks. And if we were to do this again, we would do that part very differently, because we do want to know, how many students compared to what their specific outcomes were academically and satisfaction wise, but we weren't able to do that one for one. It's just number of clicks, which is pretty general. So that's also a limitation of our study. Yeah. Kelsey, go ahead and click to the next slide. We could actually click through 2 slides. If you could go to the next one after this. Yeah, there you go. So these are some of the topics that were already mentioned. Some of the preparation of the video could be that we could have people use their own approach, try varying the content, or we could keep to that script idea. We could also try different ways of making the video, different places to put it in the LMS. And then, of course, as has been mentioned here, all the data, right? Like if we can figure out what percentage of students viewed it versus how many clicks, that's going to give us a little bit better footing to go with. And then maybe putting them in different places. We could also check out what else comes to mind that we could do differently or maybe take away from this.
From my perspective, having more one-on-one, one-to-one matching would have been better. Having exact. Yeah, well, never mind. I don't know that I could do that. I take it back. I had a thought and then it just evaporated.
If it comes back, feel free to share it, Steve.
Yeah, I think having some more advanced stats or just being able to track the data would be helpful, and doing it across the wide. I mean, these are all suggestions that have been made in the chat. Then I think these are, more classes across a wider range of time, more data. I mean, that would be ideal, of course. But I think that it seems to me that it's unlikely they could hurt, right? And so it seems likely that they could help. And so if there were a chance to implement it on a wider scale, I think it might be interesting to see what the data bore out.
Oh, I love this question, Cynthia. Bottom line is, do you recommend making more videos? And do you think that personal or group Zoom calls would be equally effective? I'm going to chime in on this and then pass it to my 2 co-presenters here. But I took a class from Jan Spencer, who I know is on this call. And I have to say that in that class, there were Zoom calls. And just having them, whether I could attend them or not, made me want to engage more as a student. And that's not just necessarily a takeaway from this study, but on the idea of Zoom calls, I think it's a great idea personally. But Andrew, Steve, what do you guys think about that idea of, should you make more videos?
I think so. I mean, I think that any chance that there's sort of a chance for a face-to-face interaction, it's not literal face-to-face, but it's a chance for them to get to hear a voice, to see a face, and to know something about the instructor. I mean, it's not always going to be possible, I suppose, to have the particular instructor who's teaching the class have created the video, but to have a face and to have a different means of getting at the information and having it explained in perhaps a different way. Seems to me that it can only be one more resource for students. Steve?
No, I agree wholeheartedly.
Yeah, I think video is a good way to go. And I know that informally, I've gotten a lot of feedback on that when I have chosen to use video in my teaching. I'm sure others on this call have. Kelsey, could you click one more slide ahead? We did share a presentation in the fall of 2022 at OLC Accelerate, kind of some early ideas around what we were doing with this study. Had some good discussion there. It was kind of fun. I was present physically, and Andrew and Steve presented over Zoom with me. And it was a nice sort of hybrid presentation. So I enjoyed doing that with both of you. Some of the things that came up in that discussion with some of the folks that were in the room were some ideas around using the bottom line concept of what matters on the assignment if you're going to think about what's the content of that video. And also something that we discussed was using the top 3 complaints students have about an assignment and making sure we just like laser focus on addressing those. And then what kind of academic skills do students need to demonstrate? I know that was something that was talked about, I think in the videos themselves, the full length videos you guys created was, what does it need to look like? What do you really need to be focused on in terms of how you write your essay? And then the last one is use the content measured in the assignment. The idea is you want to not just talk about the concepts students should be doing in the work, but also what skills are they drawing on and what does it need to look like? Like if it needs to have citations, if it needs to be formatted a certain way, that's also kind of helpful to them. So yeah, some great ideas that came out of this. So even though our research was not super conclusive in the positive, I don't think we're giving up quite yet. And just want to thank everybody for sharing out. And thank you, Steve and Andrew, for being here as well. And
Thanks, Bethany.
yeah, thank you. Looks like our time's about up. Thanks everybody for the questions, and we'll try to follow up as well on any that we didn't answer. We know there's another presentation after this.
Thank you so much for rolling with it.
Yeah, thank you for helping out on the thank you.